Do you find swimming a real effort? Well, stay tuned for today's video because I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to make your freestyle stroke more smooth and effortless. Now, I suspect that for many of you, your tactic until now has been to simply swim and maybe swim some more in an attempt to hopefully improve your freestyle stroke. Well, that's a little bit like heading out for a long ride without stabilizers on your bike when you're learning to ride a bike for the very first time. You are literally throwing yourself in the deep end, whereas it's much better to break things down and build it up in steps. So the first element to get your head around is your resistance through the water. And in short, the larger your frontal area that you're trying to push through the water, the greater the resistance you're going to experience. And whilst this isn't directly working on your freestyle stroke and the technicalities of it, it's a really important element to simply get your head around and understand, and also experience the benefits of reducing that frontal area where possible, which in turn is going to reduce that drag and, in essence, make things more effortless. And as silly as that seems, what it's doing is actually highlighting efficiency. For the same effort, you can potentially travel further. So take that forwards into the rest of your swimming. Also, it's just a great skill to practice and work on for everyday swimming anyway. So a great little drill to practice this and experience this is to push off the wall in a streamlined position. You want to link your hands above your head with straight arms and really trying to squeeze your head. And the aim here is to keep your legs still and simply glide as far as you possibly can. You'll find that the more streamlined you make yourself, the further you will go. Right, next up, and probably the most common mistake or issue I see people making is with their head position. Now, essentially, your head steers you as a swimmer. So if you were to tilt your head left, you're going to veer left. Tilt it right, you'll veer right. But also, if you lift your head up, you probably find that your bum and your legs will start to sink. Equally, bury your head down, and you might find that your bum and your legs start to pop up. So ideally, you want to keep your head as still as possible. Any side-to-side movement will have to be counteracted with some funny pull or leg kick to keep you on track, which is all wasted energy. So I recommend starting by looking directly down at the ground below you whilst swimming, and with a relaxed head, then just naturally finding your preferred head position. Now, personally for myself, that's around 2 to 3 meters in front of me on the bottom of the pool. Now, when it comes to breathing, you also want to make sure that you're not lifting your head up when you go to breathe. You should be just looking to the side wall of the pool. Now, that means actually having half your face in the water and half out. But in reality, what happens is that the top of your head creates a bit of a cavity around your face, which means that your mouth isn't actually in the water at all. And talking of breathing, this can be another problematic area for many swimmers, but once you have it nailed, it can make your swimming far more smooth and effortless. Now, obviously, when we're on land, we can breathe as and when we want, but once we get in the water, we can suddenly only take a breath every number of strokes. And for a lot of people, that can feel quite uncomfortable. Now, rather than simply taking a breath and then holding on to it until the next breath, once you've taken that breath, you should immediately start to trickle that breath out. And that means that you should have fully exhaled by the time you get around to taking that next breath. That will hopefully relieve a lot of tension in your upper body and just make the whole affair a lot more relaxed. Also, whilst we're on breathing, don't feel like you need to suddenly start breathing every 3 strokes, as is often talked about. Make life easier for yourself. Just breathe every 2. And also, whilst we're talking of breathing, don't feel like you need to start breathing every 3, as is often talked about. Make life easier yourself. Just breathe every 2 initially and just make it a lot more relaxed. And what about the leg kick? Well, this is an area that tends to get a little attention, particularly amongst distance swimmers and triathletes who are all about saving energy and feel that the leg kick is a waste of energy. Well, actually, the leg kick is really important. And if you think about it this way, if you were to have a really efficient leg kick, you might be able to produce some good power and propulsion for very little effort from each and every one of your kicks. I mean, what isn't to like about that? So do make sure you still focus on your leg kick and trying to improve that, including it into some of your workouts. A good way of doing this is actually just using a kickboard. Isolates the legs, allows you to work on that. If you like, you can even include the use of fins just to work those leg muscles a little bit more or to help propel you through the water. But the key here is to focus on the leg kick coming from the hips with a soft bend in the knee and really nice loose ankles. Now, in regards to the actual stroke action, everything is as important as one another. But there's one part of the stroke which does tend to get missed and not talked about that often, and that is the extension and exit of the hand at the end of the stroke. By that, I mean the section just after the pull phase where the hand and arm fully extends before initiating the exit from the water and going into the recovery phase. And simply, you want to maximize the amount of water being pulled. And since your hand is already moving through the water at pace and with power, why not just finish the stroke off those final few inches, extending that arm out and pushing that water that little bit further. And I actually used to exaggerate this a little bit in some of my sessions to work on this by really doing a forceful flick at the end of the stroke. Now, I can't talk about smooth freestyle swimming without discussing rotation. Now, admittedly, rotation is a relatively advanced skill and not something that I would recommend everyone suddenly jumps into trying to do. Really try to nail the fundamentals first, the catch, the pull, the recovery, and so on, before moving on to trying to implement the rotation into your stroke. However, rotation basically means that you rotate around an axis. If you imagine it runs from the top of your head through to the bottom of your feet. And when your hand enters the water and you initiate that catch phase, you start to rotate onto your side, almost leaning into the catch. And then as you start to move through that pull, you begin to level off. And as that next hand enters, you're rotating back over onto the other side. And this helps in a number of ways, but some of the main ones are the fact that when you start that catch, you're almost putting your body weight into that catch. So you're really putting a lot of power and pressure down onto the water. Also, it's then allowing you to utilize some big muscles, your lats, your back, rather than just pummeling your pecs and your biceps and just simply getting a bit more power into the stroke. And also, in turn, by rotating onto your side, you're actually reducing your frontal area in the water. And in turn, that's going to reduce your drag. And finally, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the best way to improve your stroke and make it more smooth and effortless is to break things down. And what better way to do that than with some drills? Drills will simply focus on certain movements and parts of the stroke, but also over-exaggerating some of them to a degree. So what I tend to do is include some drills, just a handful, in maybe a warm-up or warm-down of a session. But if you really want, you could do a fully focused technique session where you're doing loads of drills throughout that session. If you'd like any tips or ideas for those drills, I'm going to drop a video link in the description just down below so that you can follow through and put them into your own workouts. There we go. Hopefully you're all now equipped for some smooth and effortless swimming. If you've got any more questions, please drop them in the comment section down below. If you've enjoyed today's video, give it a thumb up, give it a like. Don't forget, we're over on social media, so you can give us a follow over on there. And if you're not doing so already, give us a subscribe just down below.